There are a number of tools that enhance prophecies that come out to be named prophecies of 100% accuracy. In this video, we're picking from among the tools a facet that relates to the words that ensure prophecies that come out to be 100% accurate. Parading your life around these words will help your prophetic walk and take you to the prophetic hall of fame in any age. It's one who managed to do some unusual works prophetically. And that's what I want to walk you through. The first word for our consideration here is the verb see. In Isaiah chapter 6 and verse 1, the word reads, "In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting on a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above it stood seraphim. Each one had 6 wings. With 2, he covered his face. With 2, he covered his feet. With 2, he flew, and one cried to another and said, Holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the posts of the door were shaken by the voice of him who cried out, and the house was filled with smoke. Then said I." Our concern here is on the statement, "I saw." This is one of the deepest levels of prophetic encounters in scripture, where the prophet saw the Lord, the prophet saw the throne, the prophet saw the seraphim, the prophet saw the location of the seraphim above the throne, the prophets saw the number of the wings of the seraphim, the prophet was able to hear the seraphim speak, the prophet was able to see, to observe what happened at the voice of the seraphim, the prophet again was able to interact in the spirit realm with the encounter by reacting with the words. Then said I. But how did the prophet manage to come to this place where he was able to transcend from the physical realm to this depth in the spirit with God and come to a level where we can refer to as the prophet being present with God and his angels? The issue is tied to one word, see, recorded in the past participle as saw. It said, I saw. The word recorded or rendered as saw here in English is picked from the Hebrew word ra. This word means to perceive, to look at, to inspect. When you take the word to look at and to inspect, you can further break it into observing with the intention to access details. That's the actual word there. From that sense, the seeing as engaged in this context, it's not talking about the way you just sight something. No, the seeing here is very specific. The man looked at, the man inspected, and this was preceded by an intention. He was waiting to see something, and he engaged his ability to inspect in the realm of the spirit here. And in the process of time, he penetrated from the physical realm to the spirit realm, where he was able to inspect the details around the throne room of God. And this in turn is connected with a particular prophetic code, and that's the prophetic code of guessing. So the word I saw there can also be interpreted as I guessed. That's where I'm taking us to. The prophet Habakkuk engaged the same word as a tool to gain access to details from God himself. In chapter 2 of his book, he said, I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see, and will watch to hear what he will say. The prophet was waiting to see what God will say. That gives you a deeper depth of meaning here. How do you see what someone has to say? And he said, what he will say unto me, and what I will answer when I am reproved. Listen to verse 2. And the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, and that he may run that readeth it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. The prophet Habakkuk here, he looked and inspect, then perceive and heard. As a result, what he did here was to guess. You've got to train and engage your ability to fix your guess things that you need to prophesy about, whether on your inside using your inner eyes, or on the outside using your physical eyes, with the intention or expectation that your spiritual eyes gets open for you to access and inspect what you're looking at. This was what the prophet Isaiah did. And that's where I'm pushing you to. You've got got to learn how to ra. The next word for our consideration is the word watch. The prophet Habakkuk said in chapter 2 and verse 1, I will stand upon my watch, and I'll set me upon the tower, and I'll watch. There are two watch in this Bible verse. He said, I'll stand upon my watch. The Hebrew word rendered as the first watch here in this Bible verse is mishmereth. This word doesn't suggest the art of seeing. It rather suggests the art of being vigilant. So this is not the watch I'm talking about. So you can see the English rendering of the scripture can get a prophet off balance at times, because in Hebrew, the two watch you see in this verse are different words, but rendered as watch. So that you read in English, you miss it from there. Yes. Mishmeret suggests the core concern of that of God rather than see. But the next word rendered as watch is the Hebrew word safar. This one means to look about, to view with the intention to pick signals as a guard. So my concern here is the Hebrew word to safar, which means to look about until something is sighted, and then you inspect it. So the prophet Habakkuk was going to do three things. One, he was going to mishmereth, which means to be on guard. Then it was going to watch. This time it is safar, which means to observe intently, and that denotes gazing. And he was going to do something next. He said he was going to see, that came from the first word we picked, ra. He was going to safar so that he could ra. He was going to keep looking about until he is able to see, which is to ra in the spirit realm. This is what the prophet was going to do here. And these prophets in scripture had a perfect understanding on the mechanism or principles of engagement with these words that serve as prophetic tools for permeating to access forensic prophecy, or what we call prophetic accuracy. There are two more words I want to pick up here in this material and associate them with the accorded prophetic code to enhance your ability to prophesy at a forensic level. This would make a point number 3, and the word is to reveal. This yet is a deeper depth of the prophetic and serves prophets to operate with a high level of accuracy. When the prophet Daniel went with his men to seek the face of God in Daniel chapter 2 verse 19, the word says that the thing was revealed to Daniel in a vision of the night. The word revealed there, it's the Hebrew word that means gelar. That's a word, and this word talks about, well, to reveal as in uncovering or exposing a secret. The same word means or suggests to be taken into exile. That's from a root Hebrew word alpha that talks about to be taken into exile. Get me here? What this connotes is that the dream of the king Nebuchadnezzar was extracted or exported from the mind of the king Nebuchadnezzar, who was concealing it, and it was imported to the mind of the prophet Daniel, who was seeking it prophetically. And in the process, he didn't see it by way of Ra or Safar, but he picked it from Gelar. The Hebrew word here talks about the dream of the king being exported from his mind as a duplicate, just like for those who edit videos or music can export a music and still have the original copy of that music in the app. So the king Nebuchadnezzar served as the original app where the dream was generated. It was exported from his mind to the mind of Daniel, where perception and interpretation was to take place. And it happened through the word Gelar. And this in turn is associated with a particular prophetic code, the prophetic code of shadow. The prophet had to practice the presence to the point that he could be so soaked that he could become a part of God by extension. And so things that happen in the God realm can be rendered accessible to him as a result of the shadow of God resting upon him. That's what happened here. So before Nebuchadnezzar would know it, his dream was exported and imported and installed in Daniel's mind, and everything was so clean and clear. The exact copy of what Nebuchadnezzar, the original host of the dream, had was what Daniel had. So when Daniel narrated the dream and gave the interpretation, it was just as exact, and there was nothing the king could do than to commend Daniel for his interpretation and then give Daniel the accolades and then the promotion that was also expected. This is what leads a prophet to his placement societally, and that's what I intend to walk you into by virtue of this video. The last word for our consideration is the word vision. Of course, several other prophets had a lot of visions, but I want to pick that concerns the prophet Daniel in chapter 7, verse 2. Daniel spake and said, I saw. That's to say, I kazah. That's a deeper depth of the word ra. Here, Daniel kazah. The Englishman still writes saw. And that's a problem again for us, because the depth from which Isaiah operated there, when he said I ra, is a different depth from which Daniel operated here when he said I kazah. These are two distinct depths. You walk from ra to kazah. To kazah is to see as a whole, the completion of seeing. Not just like Isaiah gave the details he met in the throne room of God. Here you see the entire throne room of God as a black with vivid details, as well as the internalized details in the throne room of God as assessed by Isaiah there. Here the man Daniel kazah. But I'm not dwelling with kazah here, although it serves us to prophesy at a high level of forensic prophecy. Moving to the next word. He said, I saw in my vision by the night, and behold, the four winds of the heaven trove upon the great sea. Wow. And the four great beasts came up from the sea, divers one from another. The first one was like a lion and had the eagle's wings, and I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. What I want to tell you as a prophet or one who desires to prophesy here is that Daniel was actually referring to a king that will rise in the process of time. But as the four winds strove upon the sea, something popped up. As he observed, he understood that it was a beast, and the beast was like a lion. But the lion was given the heart of a man, and that was to be a king, what we call in most countries today a president or a prime minister or an emperor or whatever. My concern here, I want to expose to you, to shock you, is this. This is talking about a man who is going to rule, and you are going to be looking at this man as a man. But in reality, in the realm of the spirit, this is a lion with the heart of a man. And that tells you why you see a president doesn't behave the way you want him to behave. Because in the spirit realm, here is a beast given the heart of a man. So we saw him as a man, we voted him as a man, but in reality this is a beast, only with a functional heart of a man. So by the time he begin to exhibit his beast nature, you become shocked and worried. What's the president doing? No, don't be shocked or worried. It's because of the original personality that he carries. The fact that the president is putting on a cloth, is born of a woman and from a family and has undertaken the educational training doesn't mean that this person is a human being. There's a spirit he carries. That's what I'm talking about here. And that spirit is what determines the operation of this president. You can link this up to whichever kind of leader you have anywhere. But that is even a by the way of what we're treating here in this video. Only that it will give you the ideas that enhance your ability to prophesy with accuracy when you're discerning spirits that controls leaders that govern or rule over a particular region. Let's go back to our word. Our word is vision. He said, I saw, I in my vision. My concern here is not the analysis I just did like I said earlier. My concern is in the word vision. The word vision as rendered here, I speak from the Hebrew word kazah. This talks about an appearance. You get that? It doesn't talk about just a seeing, as vision will imply, because vision is verbal in nature, but a noun in form. Yeah. So the prophet kazah, the prophet met an appearance. That's what the word here suggests. And the appearance was the beast that he just described. And that was a vision. When we're talking about prophetic accuracy, one tool that the prophet makes use of or engages is the tool that makes the word vision as accessed by the prophet Daniel. And when he met this kazah, he went through a series of kazah that seeing that formed the sum of his keserve. And that's why the first verse of Daniel chapter 7 said the prophet gave the submission of his vision. In other words, he gave the submission of his keserve. God uses this to give prophets messages that serve as predictions that are very much accurate, that nothing can take out of it or add to it. So severally, when prophets predict about the future, they actually kezer to keserve. They actually see to catch a vision or catch an appearance. And when they catch this appearance, nothing can alter it. Such prophets are referred to globally as predictors that have the ability to predict things into the future and see them come to pass with 100% accuracy because they engage vision. This vision in turn could be an open vision, an inner vision, or a dream or a trance. You get that? Keserve could be broken into these four facets. And so if it's in a trance, wow. If it's in an inner vision, wow. If it's in an open vision, it's wow. And if it's in a night vision, it's also wow. All of them come from one word, keserve. And when you catch it and disclose it, that's exactly what's coming to be. All right? So these four words serve as tools that enhance or guarantee prophetic accuracy for prophets when they see and prophesy, or when they see and predict.